very willing to cooperate. And I think that what you demonstrate is that leadership is partnership. And we do appreciate, and I think we can deliver great things for that.
I think we can do a lot too. The United States, I've said before, we're back. The U.S. is back.
President Biden's promise that America is back for who, to being a beacon of democracy on the world stage is a hard sell. When attacks on the right to vote are proliferating across Republican-led states, when 3 out of 10 Republicans believe Donald Trump will somehow be reinstated as president this year, and when Trump is not held accountable for encouraging a violent mob to try to overturn a Democratic election. And his party kills a bipartisan commission hoping to investigate the attack. Joining me now to discuss the state of American democracy, Dr. Sarah Kendzior, scholar of authoritarian states and author of Hiding in Plain Sight, and Bree Newsome-Bass, filmmaker and activist. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. So I'm going to start with this Pew poll. And, we have a recent poll that comes out asking whether or not the United States is still a good example of what democracy should be. And I'll start with you, Sarah. What does it say that 57% of people responding saying that America used to be a good example of democracy, but now it isn't?
Well, it shows that 57% of people are paying attention. But I think what we need to look at are the weaknesses that allowed our country to deteriorate so badly during the Trump years to begin with. The reason our institutions were able to be corrupted is because they were already weak going in. And what's happening now with the Biden administration refusing to enforce accountability, refusing to investigate things like Trump's reaction and handling of the COVID pandemic, the January 6th attack on the Capitol, the fact that he was a Kremlin asset, I don't think that that's necessarily going to restore faith either domestically or globally in the U.S. as a paragon of representative democracy and justice.
Exactly. It occurs to me, in any other country in the world that has been watching America for the last 6 months alone, it's like, there was an attempted coup, and the guy that you found responsible for it is hanging out in Florida, and no one's been held accountable. But Bree, I want to ask you this. This idea that America used to be an example of a democracy and now isn't, when was this place ever an example of democracy? When large numbers of people, especially black and brown people, were denied access to the vote? Do you think that even that response sort of reflects a problematic understanding of this country's history?
Oh, absolutely. This is specifically a crisis of white liberalism, right? So fascism is completely clear where it stands. It's been standing in the same place. Republicans are completely, in lockstep with fascism. Its most recent iteration being led by Trump here, right? But the crisis is really among the white liberals who have to confront this fact that we cannot have democracy in the United States unless it is extended to everyone. And so you can't address the crisis of democracy without specifically addressing race and racism. And that is where the fault line really exists.
And going along those lines, we have sort of recent statements from Raffensperger and his wife, who's the Secretary of State in Georgia, where they are getting death threats for simply doing their job. Bree, you've done activist work in South Carolina where your life has been in danger and everything else like that. What does it mean that now conservatives, people who have supported Trump, are now having their lives threatened, even as the larger party itself turns a blind eye to the increasing dangers of white nationalism in this country?
Well, it's not surprising at all. And that's part of what is, frankly, frightening about the fact that, even as Republicans face these threats, they are still willing to march along, this direction with Trump. But it's also important for everyone to recognize that this is what happens as fascism takes over. So even people who may feel like they are comfortable, may feel like they are safe, maybe are not feeling the threat as acutely as, people like myself, black and brown activists have felt for some time. It will come knocking at your door. And that is what is so frightening about it.
Sarah, we've been talking about internal threats to American democracy. Now let's talk about an external threat to American democracy. I'm going to play some sound from an exclusive interview that NBC has with Vladimir Putin. I'd like your thoughts on the other side.
When President Biden was asked whether he believes you are a killer, he said, "I do." Mr. President, are you a killer?
Послушайте меня.
Over my tenure, I've gotten used to attacks from all kinds of angles and from all kinds of areas under all kinds of pretext and reasons, and of different caliber and fierceness, and none of it surprises me. So as far as harsh rhetoric, I think that this is an expression of overall U.S. culture.
Sarah, all world leaders are killers at some level or another. They're in charge of armies. But what does this kind of response from Vladimir Putin tell us, not just about his positioning now, but perhaps what he's willing to do and what he might be committed to do to the United States under this new administration?
I mean, it shows he's very adept at using American television media for autocratic flaunting. You know, Trump was his asset, and the Trump administration was a transnational crime syndicate masquerading as a government. The Kremlin was a key part of that, but this was really, links between mafiosos, oligarchs, plutocrats worldwide. Now that his asset has been removed from power, I think his primary concern is making sure that the American public just kind of forgets that this doesn't happen. And a great route to that is, leveraging media to issue these kinds of threats. It's obviously aided by actual structural threats like the major cyber attacks, that the Kremlin has been levying against the U.S., often through proxy organizations. But, the Biden administration needs to be much more aggressive about this, much more assertive about stating our values, hitting the oligarchs where it hurts, following the list, for example, of oligarchs that should be sanctioned that Russian dissident Alexei Navalny has supplied. Those are all pragmatic things that Biden could do instead of having a summit with Putin that Putin will use as a great PR coup for his own domestic agenda.
I have to tell the entire audience, if you ever feel passive, if you ever think it's time to sit down, please follow the timelines of either of these women, and they will wake you up every day as to what the challenges are that this country is facing. Thank you so much, Sarah Kendzior and Bree Newsome.